Welcome everyone to DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking about WWE SummerSlam 2022 live from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. A lot has changed in the landscape of WWE over these last few weeks. Vince McMahon stepped down from the head of WWE, stepped down as the CEO and chairman. He retired, which we later found out he resigned, but Vince is gone. Maybe his creative input is still felt in certain spots here and there. It was a very sudden occurrence, so maybe his influence is still sprinkled in on this show a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, Vince is gone, and Triple H is the new head of WWE Creative. And if tonight was a glimpse of how things are going to go under Triple H's creative direction and vision, then I think we are in good hands. SummerSlam 2022 is going to go down as one of the better WWE pay-per-views of the year. WrestleMania earlier this year was a damn good show. Both nights combined, night one especially, but both nights combined, WrestleMania was a damn good show. Earlier this year, and I believe SummerSlam, which did not have the strongest build going into the show, turned out to be excellent as well. They started strong with a great opening match, plus a bunch of really great surprises after that opening match. In the middle of the show, you had a few big moments and some returns, some good action. You had a few questionable finishes here and there, but nothing overly upsetting or confusing. And then the main event of this show, what WWE billed as the final time Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns would go one-on-one. It was a last man standing match for the Undisputed WWE Universal Championship, and I find it very hard to take WWE's word that this is going to be the last Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match we'll ever see. But if it is, they certainly went out on the highest note possible, and Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar delivered the best match they have had since their very first match at WrestleMania 31 in 2015. That was an incredible main event, one of my personal favorite WWE pay-per-view main events in several years now. It was violent, it was chaos, it was batshit insanity, and I loved it. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar tend to have very repetitive matches. If you've seen one Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar match, for the most part, you've seen them all. But it's very fitting that their very first match at WrestleMania 31 all those years ago was excellent, and now fast forward to the year 2022 and what appears to be their final ever match against each other, and this match was just as good as that one, if not even better. And not only was this one of the best Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar matches of all time, it is, in my opinion, the greatest last man standing match we have ever seen in pro wrestling, in WWE, in any company. I might take that statement back if I recall other last man standing matches in WWE history and in other wrestling promotions, but as of right now, in this very moment, I would venture to say that that was the best last man standing match I personally have ever seen. So we got a lot to get into, covering this show from top to bottom, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Thank you for choosing me to give you your SummerSlam 2022 coverage. I thank you. I love you. Let's get into the show here. So the stadium for the show, they were in Nissan Stadium. Very nice setup. It looked very similar to how the stadium was set up last year at SummerSlam in Vegas. I believe it was last year, had no giant screen, no giant Titantron, but you had a curved rampway on the entrance, which I always think looks pretty cool. It made for a few long entrances for some of the matches throughout the night, but I still thought, all in all, it looked very good. And I'll probably mention it a little bit later, but I will like to say up front, commentary tonight was very good. In case you did not know, Vince McMahon is no longer screaming in these people's ears anymore, particularly Michael Cole. Let me shout him out now. I'm sure I'll get back to him later on when I cover some matches in this show, especially the main event. But Michael Cole was on point tonight, and I want to give that man his flowers because they are due. But as for the show, we kicked things off with the Raw Women's Championship match. Big time Becky Lynch challenging Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship in a redemption story for both women. Becky Lynch has been on a downward spiral since losing to Bianca at WrestleMania earlier this year, and she has found herself in a position to once again challenge, possibly for the last time, the Raw Women's Championship and get back the title that she feels is rightfully hers. Meanwhile, Bianca Belair, of course, she got the big win over Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, seemingly overcoming the 26-second embarrassment that she suffered last year at SummerSlam. But now we have found ourselves a year later at SummerSlam this year to come full circle on this story between Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. I enjoyed their match at WrestleMania this year much more than I enjoyed this match at SummerSlam, but I did feel as though this match at SummerSlam was great. I thought these women had a great match here, a great, strong way to open the show. Becky and Bianca just have great chemistry together. They're both very talented women. They know how to tell a great story in their matches, and this one was no exception here. Early on in the match, Becky was targeting Bianca's left arm, trying to weaken the champion to prevent her from hitting some of her power moves, and of course to weaken her arm in preparation for Becky's disarm her. But I don't think they sold the arm injury that much, because not long after this, Bianca started to make her comeback and things became a lot more back and forth, and Bianca really wasn't selling the arm all that much. So that's a little minor nitpick on the match, but not enough to bring it down too much. There were some very impressive things and spots that happened throughout the course of this match. One of those things was at one point both women were on the outside. Becky Lynch had Bianca draped over the barricade over by the ring announcer timekeepers area, and she delivered a diving leg drop to the back of Bianca's head. Thought that was cool. They came back to that same spot a little bit later in the ring. Bianca was kind of draped over the middle rope. She was on the apron and she was draped inside over the middle rope. Bianca went for that leg drop again, but this time Bianca caught her and hit her with a powerbomb. We see both women on the outside. Becky was trying to pull on Bianca's braid, but Bianca used that braid to pull Becky into the steel post. Then she got her in position, hit her with a very wicked suplex on the floor. A little bit later on, back in the ring, we see Becky go for the disarm her, but Bianca manages to get to the ropes. They spill outside, and Bianca hits Becky with the KOD on the floor. Becky's laid out. Bianca gets back in the ring. The referee starts counting, and Becky barely beats the count from the referee. Just got in right in the nick of time. Bianca went up top, but Becky started to pull on her braid again, and this time she managed to yank Bianca off the top using the braid hit her with the manhandle slam, but it was only good for a 2 count. Bianca was up on the second rope in the corner, and Becky was up there alongside with her. She was attempting to go for the manhandle slam again, this time a super manhandle slam, but Bianca managed to reverse it. She hit Becky with a Spanish fly off the top. Both women get up pretty quickly, but Bianca gets Becky in position to hit her with yet another KOD and gets the win. So Bianca Belair with an emphatic win over Becky Lynch to, I assume, finally close out this ongoing story arc between these two women. And I believe the post-match really solidified this being the end, because after showing the replays and everything, Becky extended her hand for Bianca to shake. Bianca was very hesitant to shake Becky's hand. She was looking out to the crowd. Finally, she obliged. She shook Becky's hand, and the two of them even shared a hug. So you're kind of waiting to see, is Becky gonna lower the boom? What's gonna happen here? But it didn't happen. Becky, she hugged her back, and then she left the ring, seemingly leaving out of the arena. So we'll come back to that a little bit later, because as Bianca was continuing to pose, we heard very familiar theme music, and out came Bayley. We have heard the rumors of Bayley making her comeback on this show at SummerSlam. She's been healed up from her injury that sidelined her last year before WWE returned on the road in front of fans. Bayley finally makes her first big appearance. She comes out, but she stops midway towards the ring, and then we hear some other music, and it is the music of Dakota Kai, the recently released Dakota Kai. I believe it was a few months ago that Dakota Kai was released from WWE, and so she comes out to the ring, or she comes out, walks down the rampway, and then she stands side by side with Bayley. After that, we hear the theme music of Io Shirai, who the Titantron, or the screen that was showing her name, it displayed Io Shirai, at least I thought it did. Meanwhile, Corey Graves is on commentary calling her Io Sky. And I'm like, that's odd. It's very weird. Later on in the night, some people were tweeting out that PW Insider confirmed that her new name is now Io Sky. I don't know if Io Shirai is her real birth name, and so now she has suffered the fate of having her name changed too, but Io Sky. Io Shirai, let's call her that for now, just for the sake of all things considered here. So now we have this threesome here, this 3-person duo of Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai, all standing side by side, and they walk towards the ring. They get in the ring, come face to face with Bianca. You hear Bayley talking trash to Bianca in her face, and then from behind, Becky Lynch gets back in the ring, and she is standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder with Bianca. Both women are ready to throw down with the 3 opposing women, and Bayley, Io, and Dakota then leave the ring and retreat to the back. So this was a very interesting development here. Again, in case you needed a reminder as to who is in charge and running this show, let this be a reminder that we got not only the return of Bayley, who I think everyone was expecting to come back on this show, but we also had the return of Dakota Kai and the main roster debut of Io Shirai. Technically, it's the main roster debut of Dakota Kai as well, but at least Io Shirai was still technically contracted in WWE, although the rumor mill was going off in recent weeks that she would be leaving WWE. So this was very interesting to see her here. And of course, like I mentioned, Dakota Kai was released several months ago. And so Papa H getting some of his NXT ladies back and is getting them on the main roster. I think a faction with Io, Dakota, and Bayley sounds pretty good. Babyface Becky Lynch, which it looks like is official. If it's not official, I think the gears are in motion towards making that happen now. And seeing this kind of war of factions here going forward could be very interesting. Obviously, the end goal would have to be Bayley and Bianca Belair challenging for the championship, but it could lead to Bianca and Io, Bianca and Dakota, and Becky Lynch is involved, so we could get Becky Lynch and Bayley. Hopefully that's the first thing. Get Becky and Bayley, Becky and Io, Becky and Dakota. Got some very good matchups here, and overall, all this does is strengthen the Raw Women's division, which desperately needs it right now. So, good stuff here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what these ladies do in the future. Up next, we had The Miz versus Logan Paul, the recently contractually signed to WWE Logan Paul. Logan Paul is an official contracted WWE superstar, and in his first singles match in the company, he goes up against the man who he teamed up with and won a match with at WrestleMania earlier this year, The Miz. Of course, The Miz came out with Maurice and Tommaso Ciampa in his corner, and these two proceeded to have what turned out to be a pretty good match. The fans were firmly behind The Miz in the early parts of the match. They were cheering on The Miz. There were "Let's Go Miz" chants. And Logan Paul, we've seen Logan Paul appear on TV, on Raw in recent weeks. He's gotten boos, he's gotten some cheers, so you didn't really know what the reaction was going to be on this show. But I don't know if it was the audio of my show or my stream or whatever, but it sounded like there was little to no reaction to Logan Paul for the early parts of this match, which is probably worse than him getting booed, is the fans just not caring about anything he did. But Logan Paul, much like at WrestleMania, he was put in spots where he got to shine, he got to bust out some big moves, and was a human highlight reel throughout this entire match. Miz dominated the first few minutes of the match, but I think pretty much throughout the rest of it, it was all Logan Paul and just a big reel of all of his hits, all of his big moves. At one point, Logan Paul, he sent Miz to the outside, then got up on the apron and hit a standing moonsault off the apron. Logan Paul later on hit a blockbuster off the top and crashed The Miz down. Paul hit a huge clothesline, then got Miz up for the running power slam, only good for a 2 count. Later on, he locked The Miz in the figure 4 leg lock. Not the last time we'll be seeing that figure 4 leg lock this weekend, I'm sure, if any of you are interested in watching Ric Flair's last match on Sunday night. But Miz managed to escape it. Paul later on hit a flying crossbody on The Miz, and then, instead of going for the cover, hit him with a standing moonsault, only good for a 2 count. At this point, Ciampa got up on the apron, and he was attempting to interfere. The referee caught him midway through and threw him out. But Tommaso Ciampa is very defiant, apparently, and he refused to leave. He even went as far as to grab a steel chair and prop it up and sat down, just refusing to leave. At which point, we hear the theme music of AJ Styles, who came out not from the rampway, but from behind through the crowd. He dove off the barricade and dove onto Ciampa, seemingly hitting him with the phenomenal forearm, and then he fought Ciampa out through the crowd and out of the arena. So that was the best we could do with AJ Styles at SummerSlam, apparently. Not the last time that they wasted a big star on this show. But we see a Miz. We see a Miz. We see a Miz. We see the Miz laid out on the announce table, Logan Paul gets back in the ring. He goes up top, and he's looking down at Maurice. They're jaw-jacking back and forth. I thought Logan Paul was going to set himself up for a crash and burn spot here, but no. He went for the frog splash, and it connected. Planted The Miz right through the ring, the announce table. So, big spot here. Big pop from the crowd. Of course, it was a table spot. So, yeah. Back in the ring, Logan Paul went to cover The Miz, but Maurice got up on the apron, and she was distracting the referee. And as the referee had his back turned, The Miz grabbed this Polaroid. Now, he came out during his entrance. He had something around his neck, and it was this Polaroid shot of The Miz laying out Logan Paul with the skull-crushing finale, and it was, I guess, enclosed in some case or whatever. So Miz grabbed that. He went to use it on Logan Paul, but Paul ducked out of the way. He almost hit Maurice. I don't think he did. I don't think he actually connected with it. It looked like it did, but he went to use it on Maurice, and Maurice went down like she got hit, but I don't think there was anything that connected, or maybe it was supposed to, and it didn't work out. Whatever it was, Maurice leaped off the apron. Miz turns back around, and he gets hit with his own move. Logan Paul hits The Miz with the skull-crushing finale and gets the win. So not only did Logan Paul win his very first singles match in WWE, but he beat The Miz with The Miz's own finishing move. That is a bold outcome there, and surely means this feud is not over. But I hate to give the man credit. I know he is a very polarizing, controversial figure, but Logan Paul is a damn good athlete, and whatever your personal feelings are about him and his character and his overall state of being, he has committed himself to this wrestling stuff, and he's pretty good at this wrestling stuff, as on display here. He hit some very good moves, and he showed up to the dance to play. So I don't know where they go from. Like I said, I believe the feud with The Miz will probably continue. Hopefully, outside of this, can lead to a Miz Tommaso Ciampa feud, because there is just no reason for Ciampa to be attached to The Miz. So hopefully we can right that wrong very quickly, and we can branch off into that feud at some point. But for now, Logan Paul, very impressive on this show here. We had a backstage segment with Maximum Male models. They were drinking Pure Life water. They were pouring it on themselves. Massey and Mansois with Maxine and Max Dupree. Poor LA Knight is all I have to say. The guy is just stuck in this very awful gimmick, and I don't see an out for him right now. Very unfortunate. Up next was the United States Championship match. Bobby Lashley defending the title against Theory, Mr. Money in the Bank, who has been allergic to victory ever since winning that Money in the Bank briefcase. Going into this match, Theory has had 7 televised matches since Money in the Bank, and all 7 matches he has lost. So they are taking the traditional route of treating their Money in the Bank winners like dog crap, at least in terms of how often they win and lose in their matches. Because outside of that, Theory has been all over the shows on Raw and on SmackDown. I think Theory has appeared on Raw and SmackDown every single week since Money in the Bank. He has shared the ring with the likes of Roman Reigns. He's been in there with Brock Lesnar. He's been there with AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre, Riddle. Dude's been all over the shows these last few weeks, yet he just cannot get a win to save his life. And I didn't expect him to win here. Not in this match, and I did not expect him to win anywhere else in the show. But Theory put up as valiant of a fight as he could early on in the match. Before the bell even rang, he used the briefcase to attack Bobby Lashley. But It did not work in terms of keeping Lashley from participating in the match. Lashley hit some power moves, got a full head of steam, and was taking down Theory at certain points, but Theory had enough of this. He collected his briefcase and he was on his way out. He was leaving. He was done with this match. He realized the US title is beneath him, so he was on his way out. But then Lashley cut him off, started to beat the brakes off this boy again, and sent him back in the ring, beat him down some more. We see Lashley set up for the spear. He charges at Theory, but then Theory leapfrogs him, and Lashley collides with the middle turnbuckle. Then Theory he goes out to the apron. He does a roll through, trying to hit some move on Lashley, but once he dives through the ropes, he gets caught by Lashley, who basically has him over the head pressed up above him. He has him pressed over above his head, looking like he's going for a press slam or something of the sort. But instead, he drops him and immediately gets him in position for the Hurt Lock, and Theory taps out. So Bobby Lashley is still your United States champion, and Theory is still a loser. And Theory did not walk out with any championships by the time this night was over, which was for the best, because it is far too early for this man to be holding a world championship of any kind. And Bobby Lashley, they've barely scratched the surface with babyface Bobby Lashley as the dominant United States champion. So now that the stuff with him in Theory is over, maybe we can see where Lashley goes even further with that US title. Up next, we had a no disqualification tag team match. The Mysterios, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, father and son, taking on the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, with Rhea Ripley in their corner. Of course, Rhea Ripley has been out with an injury for several weeks, and she returned this past week on Monday Night Raw to assist the Judgment Day in attacking Rey and Dominic and crashing Rey's 20-year anniversary party. So we get this match here, and it is a no DQ tag team match. They list the rules. There's no disqualifications, no count out. Anything goes. And yet all the participants have to tag in and out of the match. This is stupid. This has happened several times in WWE. It might have happened in other companies too, but every time this happens, it is so stupid. How is this a no disqualification match, yet you need to tag in and out? It makes absolutely no sense. But it is what it is. I love Rey Mysterio. Him and Dominic have a good dynamic as a duo. The Judgment Day has been a nothing faction ever since they turned on Edge all those months ago, or all those weeks ago, however long ago it was. They are a nothing faction. They lose way more than they win, and tonight was no exception. This match did nothing for me, and all I was doing was just waiting for Edge to come out. Of course, there have been vignettes playing ever since Money in the Bank. I, along with many other people, originally thought, okay, maybe this is Bray Wyatt, but apparently I just wasn't paying close attention to the vignettes. It was clearly setting up Edge, and it became more and more evident as the weeks went on that Edge was coming back. And so throughout this entire match, all you're really doing, at least all I was doing, was waiting for Edge to make his way back out. And we set that up. We see Priest and Rey Mysterio going at it, but then Priest gets dropped into the ropes, and then Rey and Dominic set up to hit a double 619. They go to hit the ropes, but in doing so, Rhea Ripley, who was on the outside, tripped up Dominic, pulled him to the outside, got him up for an electric chair, and just slammed him down face first onto the apron. Back in the ring, Damian Priest laid out Rey Mysterio, and Balor called for Rhea to get involved and beat down Rey Mysterio some more when the lights went out, and we cut to the stage, and we see flames. We see a set of stairs for some reason, and then we see a figure rise from beneath the stage and rise up, and it turns out to be Edge. What a shocker. It's Edge. Let me just say, it was cool. It was a cool visual of seeing Edge standing there with flames shooting off. He looked badass, all that stuff, very cool. But I have to make fun of this because it's impossible not to. Edge rises up. There's a platform it's the same little lift thing that Cody Rhodes was using before he got injured. But Edge has risen up, and then he's risen up to go to the top of this set of stairs that he then walks down. It looked so goofy. It looked cool in theory, but execution-wise, it looked very stupid. All of this for a run-in from Edge. It wasn't even like he was wrestling. It wasn't for an entrance or anything like that. He was returning. He was running in to interfere in the match, and this whole setup for it was just in principle, in storyline, I guess you could say. Why would Edge go through all this trouble to do this when he has a bone to pick with Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley? Wouldn't he want to just immediately, as soon as he appears, as soon as he arrives, go out there to attack them? But regardless, Edge did make his way down the rampway. Balor met him right at the top of the ringside area, and Edge hit him with a big boot. He gets in the ring. Balor has a steel chair, but clearly he doesn't know how to use it because Edge caught him with a spear. Damian Priest got in the ring. Edge laid him out with a spear as well. And then Edge placed Balor, I believe, in the ropes. And then we finally see Dominic and Rey hit their double 619, get the splash, and Rey Mysterio picks up the win for him and his son. The Judgment Day loses again, and Edge, the creator of the Judgment Day, is back, and I guess gets his revenge. I'm sure this is going to set up an Edge Finn Balor match for Clash at the Castle in September in Cardiff, but boy, the Judgment Day is just, this is it. I'm sure at that show we'll have Edge beat Balor and that'll be it. Although, with Triple H being in charge and knowing how selfless Edge can be, I'm sure he was not thrilled to be taken out of that faction, and I'm sure he's not been thrilled seeing what has become of this faction in recent months. So maybe he has it in his mind and his heart to do everything he can to get this faction back on track to some level of importance and dominance in this company. And so when we get the Edge Balor match at the next pay-per-view, maybe Edge will actually put over Finn Balor. I don't know. Even if that does happen, the writing's on the wall for this faction, and it does not seem too good. But hey, Edge is back. Good for him. Up next was one of the matches I was looking forward to the most heading into this show, that being Happy Corbin versus Pat McAfee. Shockingly enough, I was looking forward to a Baron Corbin match on pay-per-view. It's crazy. But this match has gotten some of the best build out of all the matches on this entire show. This feud has originated a year ago, back when Pat McAfee first started calling Baron Corbin Bum-Ass Corbin, when he was broke Bum-Ass Corbin. And it's now led all the way up to this. They've had some great segments, particularly Pat McAfee has just been incredible on the mic in the build up to this match, and Pat McAfee's just great at what he does, and Corbin's not too shabby either. So we see Corbin make his way out. They're playing his theme music, then it gets cut off, and we cut up over towards the stage area where we see a choir singing Bum-Ass Corbin, which I thought was funny. And then they started to sing Pat McAfee's new theme music. So no Seven Nation Army at SummerSlam. At least it'll live on in infamy at WrestleMania. But Pat McAfee made his way out. The most minimalistic ring gear for Pat McAfee on this show. The match started pretty quickly with a face-off and McAfee hitting a super kick on Corbin followed not too long after that by a Hurricane Rana, and then he sent Corbin to the outside. So we're off and running. Corbin eventually took control when McAfee backflipped off the top rope, posed for the crowd, and then got hit with a missile drop kick from Baron Corbin. Or a shotgun drop kick, I should say. Both men fighting around. Corbin's dominating McAfee. Leads them to the outside, where they're over by the announce table. Of course, Michael Cole and Corey Graves are on commentary. They have their respective guys they're cheering for in this match. Corey Graves, an established friend of Baron Corbin, and of course, McAfee being the broadcast partner and good friend of Michael Cole. So we see Michael Cole getting in Baron Corbin's face as he's beating down on Pat McAfee. Corbin even picked up the headset and started talking trash about McAfee and McAfee's parents. Takes the headset off, and Michael Cole is still telling him he should be ashamed, he should be embarrassed, all this stuff. Michael Cole getting all big and uppity now. Now that Vince McMahon's no longer there to scream in his ear on the headset anymore. But Corbin shoved Michael Cole down on his ass on he shoved him back down to his seat. But this got boos from the crowd. The crowd booed when Baron Corbin pushed and shoved Michael Cole. You know you are a damn good heel when you can get booed for attacking in any way Michael Cole. There was even a slight Michael Cole chant that broke out, which I thought was pretty funny. Back in the ring, they're both up top, or at least Corbin is, and then we've seen this in previous Pat McAfee matches. We saw it in the match with Austin Theory at WrestleMania this year. We saw it in the match with Adam Cole in NXT 2 years ago, where McAfee does a vertical leap up on the top rope to hit a superplex. Although this time, McAfee almost slipped and fell. He hopped up there, slipped, but he caught himself on his knees and then powered his way back up. I'm sure Corbin helped him too. And then he did eventually hit the superplex. This was not the last struggle for McAfee in this match, because a little bit later on, Corbin's on the outside, McAfee goes up top, and he almost slips again. He had to regain his composure and his balance, and then he hit a huge swanton off the top down onto Corbin on the outside. Back in the ring, Corbin accidentally knocked down the referee and then turned back around and got kicked in the balls by Pat McAfee, a receipt for the previous night on SmackDown when Corbin kicked McAfee in the balls. So, the referee's distracted, McAfee kicks him in the balls, he hits an ugly sunset flip out of the corner and rolls up Corbin to get the win. So Pat McAfee is undefeated he's not undefeated in main roster action. He's only suffered one loss in his career on the main roster, and that was to Vince McMahon. McAfee did not look quite as impressive in this match as he has in previous matches. Him kind of slipping and sliding in some of those big spots there did not help. I'm sure he wasn't all to blame. Michael Cole even mentioned there was some kind of humidity going on, so a lot of the ropes might have been a little sweaty. I think Rey Mysterio almost slipped in the previous match too, so I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if the ropes just weren't tight enough. I don't know what was going on, but it did not help McAfee look good in this match. But McAfee is just very entertaining to watch, and I was shocked he got the win here, but this might not be over. Up next, we had a segment with Drew McIntyre, who beat Sheamus on SmackDown to become the official #1 contender for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Clash at the Castle, their next big stadium show, their first big pay-per-view in the UK in several decades. So we had an appearance from McIntyre on this show. He was in the entranceway. He was talking about the main event on this show between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns being their first time ever. He said it twice. I'm like, once, okay, maybe he slipped up, but he said it twice. And the fans had to pop and cheer for it. I thought he was trying to be sarcastic. Maybe he was going to make a joke and reveal that it was a joke or something like that. But no, he was serious. What he meant to say was their last time ever match. But McIntyre said their first time ever. WWE has been promoting this as their last time ever. Either way, it's a lie, so it doesn't even matter. But McIntyre, he shouted out some kid at ringside, Colt, and there was a Colt chant at one point. But McIntyre said he didn't care who wins at Clash of the Castle. He'll beat that ass and take those titles. So we now know what the official match is, but this was just a way to get Drew McIntyre on the show. Up next, the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles were on the line. The Usos defending against the Street Profits, and after the controversial finish to their excellent match at Money in the Bank, they assigned a special guest referee to this match, that being Tennessee's own Jeff Jarrett, who was only in this match because they were in Tennessee. That's it. Otherwise he played no other pivotal role in this match. He showed no bias towards either team, so I guess that was good. But outside of that, there was really no purpose for him to be here. But the match was still good. It was not quite as good as the match at Money in the Bank. The match at Money in the Bank with the Usos and the Street Profits was match of the year caliber. It was great. This was just another really good match with the Street Profits and the Usos. Nothing overly impressive, but nothing really offensive either. Everybody played their part. Everyone shined. Angelo Dawkins, he's trying to prove his worth here because the writing's on the wall for him and Montez Ford. They even have the commentators pointing out how Montez Ford has a singles future ahead of him and how Dawkins is probably underneath. He's probably a little annoyed with that. So even the commentary was bringing this point up. But everyone did great in this match, and it was a very good match, just not as good as the previous pay-per-views match. But we did get a really, really convincing near fall in this match where Jay went to super kick Dawkins, but Dawkins ducked out of the way and Jay almost collided with Jeff Jarrett. This similar thing happened on SmackDown, and he did connect the super kick to Jeff Jarrett, but here Jarrett caught the foot of Jay and prevented the super kick, and then he kind of shoved him backward, but he unwillingly shoved him into the waiting arms of Angelo Dawkins, who hit Jey Uso with the sit-out spine buster, tagged in Montez Ford. Ford goes up top, hits a beautiful frog splash, but he's selling the ribs, so he doesn't immediately go for the cover. Then he finally does go for the count, and it's only good for 2. At this point, Montez Ford was getting in Jeff Jarrett's face for some reason, and he went to dive through the ropes to the outside, but he got hit with a double super kick from the Usos. The Usos then took out Angelo Dawkins on the outside, back in the ring. They hit Dawkins with a double super kick. Then they hit him with the 1D, and they get the win. I was honestly a little shocked at this. I did not expect the Usos to retain their titles on this show. That was pretty shocking to me. But the Usos are still your tag team champions. I don't know where they go from here. There aren't many credible babyface tag teams on either roster right now for them to feud with. And the Street Profits, I don't know where they go from here as a team, but judging by their facial expressions after the match, particularly Montez Ford's facial expressions, I think soon and very soon we could be heading to Splitsville for these guys. And I think all these months of Montez Ford, him getting swole, commentary pointing out how there's a future for him as a single star, whether it's as a babyface or a heel, I think very soon we're about to see Montez Ford break out from this tag team with Angelo Dawkins. And when that happens, there's not a bright future for Angelo Dawkins. When you look at these two, you're not looking at two future world champions. I could be wrong. I even hope I'm wrong. I hope Angelo Dawkins can shut everyone up and prove everyone wrong and become a big star in the future. But between these two, I think it's pretty obvious who's going to rise to that level first and who's going to rise or get the chance to get to that level sooner. So keep an eye out for these two over the next little bit. Before the next match, we had an appearance from Riddle, who was originally scheduled to have a match on this show with Seth Rollins, but Rollins attacked Riddle on Raw this past week, and Riddle suffered a kayfabe storyline stinger, and the match was called off. And this led to a bunch of speculation from people that Seth Rollins is still going to have a match on this show, but it's just going to be a mystery opponent. WWE never announced that, so you can't get too mad. Believe me, what they did with these guys was a complete waste. Riddle came out, got a big pop. He called out Rollins. Rollins came out. You had officials and security trying to break them up, but eventually Seth Rollins laid out Riddle with a stomp. This was a waste of both men, and it made Riddle look like an idiot for coming out and calling out Seth Rollins and him still getting hurt in the process. So, I don't know. I guess they wanted a little more time to heat this match up and build up to a big show, and they didn't want to blow it off at SummerSlam yet, so maybe they'll build up to a match between these two at Clash of the Castle. I have to assume so. But a lot of people all week were starting to speculate on a potential scenario where Seth Rollins gets a mystery opponent on this show and throwing out different names of returning stars, current stars, NXT stars, but none of that happened. We just had the two appear on the show for a very brief couple seconds, couple minutes segment that was over and done with. So kind of a waste of these guys on one of your big shows of the year, but hopefully they have a great match at the next pay-per-view. The next official match was the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Liv Morgan defending her championship against Ronda Rousey. This was a completely one-sided match. Liv tried to hang in there, but every chance Ronda got, she was going for that armbar. And it was just a matter of, can Liv survive the armbar here? Which she kept doing. She kept getting to the ropes. She kept escaping before Ronda could really cinch it in. But the finish was very interesting. So we had the doctor come in and check on Liv, check on her arm. She said she was fine, but she was basically a one-armed woman here. But Liv continued to fight, and we see Ronda lock in the armbar again. But in doing so this time, she was upside down, but in a vertical position. Still had the hold on, but she was in a vertical position. But with the way she was positioned, her shoulders were on the mat. And so the referee counted 1, 2, 3. Although the referee did not see what was right above him, which was right before he counted the 3, Liv Morgan tapped out. So we had a fuck finish in the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Liv tapped out, but the referee didn't see it. All he saw was Ronda's shoulders on the mat, and he counted the 3. So Liv Morgan retained, and Ronda Rousey was pissed off. She went to attack Liv. She put her in the armbar again. The referee went over to stop her. She locked the referee in an armbar. You had officials come out. I think she was attacking some of them. It was just complete chaos here. So, not a huge fan of the screwy finish here, but I am firmly behind the idea of heel Ronda Rousey. She is far better off in the heel role than she is in the babyface role. Ronda, as a character on TV, is super unlikable and easy to root against and boo, which some crowds boo her anyway, so it's not going to be that difficult, especially if she continues this feud with Liv Morgan, which she clearly is going to do. And unless Charlotte Flair comes back and takes the title first, I firmly believe the next time these two women go one-on-one, that title is going right back to Ronda Rousey. Or at least it will in the future. And I think with how this show went down, we ended the night with a heel Ronda Rousey and a babyface Becky Lynch. And that could very well plant the seeds for a collision between the two of them at WrestleMania in Hollywood next year, like it has been rumored for a year now. Heading into WrestleMania this year, when Ronda won the Rumble and both Becky and Charlotte were champions and she had the choice of who she wanted to face, there was a rumor and expectation that this year Ronda will get Charlotte and they'll save the Ronda-Becky match for next year. We'll see if that's still the plan, but on this show, they have set it in motion for Ronda to be a heel and for Becky Lynch to be a babyface. All it takes is finding a way to get them back together towards the future, and we'll see where they go. They had an appearance from Mayor Kane, who came out to announce the attendance of 48,449, and his pyro went off. Hey, him appearing on this show, he's the mayor of Tennessee, so him appearing on this show meant we didn't have to hear any dumb tweets from Kane. So that's good. And then finally, the main event. Last man standing for the Undisputed Championship, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. This was excellent. So Brock comes out. Roman comes out first. And I'm thinking, why is Roman Reigns coming out first? And then it became very clear why. Because Brock Lesnar comes out, he just walks out, and then he turns back around, goes over to the side, and there's a tractor with a front loader and everything. Brock puts on his flannel shirt, puts on his cowboy hat, and he rides the tractor down the rampway over by the ring. And he stands on top of the tractor. I think he stood on top of the front loader. And he cut off the ring announcer. He did his own ring introduction. Then the ring announcer did the ring introduction for Roman Reigns. Roman had his back turned to Brock, and then when he turned back around, Brock dove off the tractor and collided with Roman Reigns. And the two begin to brawl, and Brock is just kicking Roman's ass. He is suplexing him, giving him belly-to-belly suplexes, and just throwing and tossing him all around ringside. They fight into the crowd. They fight back towards ringside. Brock is in complete control. He hits a sick German suplex on Roman. Brock's in full control. That's when Paul Heyman makes his presence felt. He distracts Brock Lesnar. Before this, Brock set up a table. So he set up a table over by the ring. But Paul Heyman is distracting Brock Lesnar. And when Brock turns back around to face Roman, Roman catches him and lifts him up and hits him with a Samoan drop through the table. The referee starts the count. Brock beats the count. And Roman, when he got out another table, he planted Brock through that table as well with a Uranagi. And then again, Brock gets back up. They get in the ring. Roman hits 2 Superman punches and a spear. Brock gets back up again. Roman goes for another spear, but Brock caught him, went for the F5. Roman slipped out of it, hit the ropes, was going for another spear, but Brock sidestepped it, and Roman went to the outside. Laid out there, Brock lifts Roman and drives him through one of the pieces of the broken tables. And they look pretty rough. Brock hits Roman with one of the steel steps, and then he picks up another piece of the broken table and hits Roman with that as well. He then dumps Roman into the front loader of the tractor. He gets in the tractor, he turns it on, he lifts Roman above the ring, high in the air, and then just dumps him in the ring. Thought that was pretty cool. He gets him. Well, Roman's down, but he manages to beat the count again. Brock gets in the ring, hits Roman with a bunch of suplexes. Roman gets back up. Brock hits him with an F5. Roman barely breaks the count and gets back to his feet. Brock goes for the F5 again, but this time Roman locks in the guillotine. Brock manages to slip out of the guillotine, and he locks in a guillotine of his own on Roman Reigns, and Roman was seemingly knocked out. And the referee starts to count again, and Roman barely breaks the count at 9. Brock then gets back in his tractor, and using the front loader, he starts pushing the ring, literally pushing the ring like a few feet. You could see the mats lifting up. You could hear Corey Graves. He got out of the way on the other side. The ring is pushed, and then Brock is still using this tractor, and he lifts the ring using the tractor. Part of the ring gets lifted up by Brock Lesnar here. Unbelievable moment. I did not expect that. I have never seen something quite as crazy as that. We have seen the ring implode. We have seen the ropes get snapped. We've seen stuff like that, but we have never seen the ring get literally lifted up like this. And when the ring got lifted up like that, Roman Reigns, who was in the ring, ended up spilling out to the outside. So, thought that was very cool. Very cool stuff here from Brock. Brock's just the best. He's one of a kind. At this point, the Usos, they came back out. They ended up getting disposed of rather easily from Brock Lesnar. And then Paul Heyman, he's pleading with Brock Lesnar, hey, that's my meal ticket. You want these championships? Here, take them. He gives him the belts. He's like, take them. Get out of here. That's my meal ticket. That is the tribal chief. I need to protect him. You get out of here. Brock's finally had enough of Paul Heyman's shit, and he lifts him over his shoulders, and he hits Paul Heyman with an F5 through the announce table. Down goes Heyman. Then Brock gets hit with a spear from Roman Reigns. Both men are down, and they eventually get back to their feet, but they are very much out of it. And then we hear A-Town down, and out comes Theory. He comes out, has a referee of his own. He has the briefcase. He hits Roman Reigns with the briefcase and knocks him backwards into the barricade, the security wall. Goes over to Brock, but then Brock lifts him up and hits him with an F5 on the barricade. So, no cash in from Theory. I'm a little surprised he was just taken out so easily like that. I thought there'd be a little more drama in stopping him, preventing him from cashing in, but it was just, he came out there, there was a slight tease, and then Brock just laid him out with an F5. So, very interesting turn of events there. Brock then got hit with a super kick. I assume it was supposed to be a double super kick, but one of the Usos was late. I think it was Jay, and then Jimmy was the one who pretty much hit him with the super kick. Brock's down, but he gets back up onto his feet. Roman hits Brock with the spear. Once again, Brock's back up. Roman goes and grabs Theory's briefcase and just starts raining down blows onto Brock Lesnar with the briefcase, yells at the referee to start counting, and Brock manages to get back up again. Brock is then given the WWE Championship belt. He hits Brock square in the face with it. Brock's down. Ref starts counting. Brock beats the count again. Then Roman hits him with the Universal Championship belt. I don't know if it was on the previous time or around this time, but this is where we got Michael Cole on commentary just screaming and pleading with the referee. I think the direct quote was, "For the love of God, count faster." He was ready for this craziness to be over. And like I mentioned earlier, Michael Cole was great on commentary here. Corey Graves was great too, but Michael Cole, it was a breath of fresh air hearing him on commentary on this show. But Roman uses the Universal title belt, knocks down Brock, and then with the help of the Usos, they start picking up the debris of the announce table. They start burying Brock Lesnar under it. They get the steel steps. They bury Brock under that as well. Meanwhile, the referee is counting, and then he reaches 10, and Roman Reigns retains the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. What an amazing main event match this was. This was outstanding. This is one of my favorite matches of the year. This is, in my opinion, one of, if not the greatest last man standing match of all time. And it is easily at least the second best match that Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar have ever had. And so, like I said, if this really is the last time we ever get Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in a match in WWE, I'm glad they went out on a high note. And Roman, who can stop him? Now we know the main event of Clash of the Castle is Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre for the championship. But seeing how this match went and seeing how it ended, how can you look at that and expect Roman Reigns to lose that championship anytime soon? But then, how can you look at the circumstances surrounding Clash of the Castle, this being the first live pay-per-view event in the UK in several years, big main event, Drew McIntyre, basically the hometown hero here. How can you expect any other outcome other than Drew McIntyre winning? That makes that main event must see. But Roman Reigns looked like a monster here, as did Brock Lesnar. It took a lot to keep him down, and that's how you protect somebody like Brock Lesnar. If only they could protect other people on the roster as well as they protect Brock Lesnar, you'd have a hell of a lot more stars on the level of Brock Lesnar in this company. After the show, there was a photo going around of Brock Lesnar getting back in the lifted up ring to retrieve his cowboy hat. Like I said, Brock's one of a kind. I don't know what Brock's contract status is. I believe his contract only ran through SummerSlam, so I think it might be up. So I don't know if this really is the last we'll see of Brock Lesnar for at least a very long time, if not ever. But if this is the last we see of Brock Lesnar for a while, then again, high note. But I can't praise this match enough. These guys killed it. Everybody played their part to perfection. I will be the first to tell you how sick to death I am of seeing Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, because their matches are just all the same. Their match at the Greatest Royal Rumble is the same as their match at Crown Jewel. It's the same as their match at WrestleMania. They're all the same. There's nothing that differentiates any of these matches. But this one was fun. This one was chaotic. This one was craziness. This one was unpredictable at different points. And this one was a lot of fun. And it was a fun way to end an overall fun show. Like I said, I don't know if Vince had one last trick up his sleeve and booked this entire show right before he left and had all this stuff going according to plan. Clearly, Triple H's influence was felt on this show, especially after the opening segment and at different points throughout the show. There was definitely a different feel to the structure of this pay-per-view, and it was for the best. I had a lot of fun watching this show, which I can't say about too many WWE pay-per-views these days. So this was a lot of fun. That main event, I cannot praise it enough. That was just excellence. That was a masterclass and a crazy fun main event. And it's stuff like that that makes me proud to be a wrestling fan. So, good stuff here, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all had a good time listening to me talk about it. As you can probably tell, my voice is going now, so that's just the price you pay for talking about a show like this. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around this long to listen to me talk about this show. If you like what you see and you like what you hear, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and subscribe to this channel filled with all kinds of content covering all kinds of wrestling, from WWE to AEW to New Japan, you name it, we cover it here every now and then. Also talk about movies, other stuff, whatever comes to mind. Not very consistent in terms of uploading, but this is the place to be. And if you want any more thoughts on mine when it's not in video form like this, follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks. I tweet pretty regularly throughout majority of the shows, especially the pay-per-views, and I give my thoughts there. What are your thoughts on this show? How'd you like that main event? And what do you see the future of being of many of the people who competed on this show? Sound off in the comment section below. Tweet me at DerekJ Speaks, and hope you all have a great time. Not a whole lot of big stuff going on in the month of August, but I'm sure you'll hear my voice talking about some wrestling related stuff in the very near future before we get to Clash of the Castle and All Out in September. Until then, thank you all again, and I'll see you next time.